Hi everyone, it's Dee Rondinella, Technology Training Coordinator for the Stark Library with this month's Sewing Saturday Café Curtains. Café curtains are typically two pieces, the valance and the panel. The valance goes across the top and the panel drapes down to the bottom of the window. The panel can be a full-length panel from top of the curtain to the bottom, or it can be a half curtain so that it goes from the middle of the window down to the bottom. I'm going to make today a valance and panels. These are full-length panels for on my windows. To get started, the first thing you need to do is get your measurements and choose what style you would like to have. As I said, I'm making a full-length panel, so that will be relatively easy because I already know that mine are 63 inches in length for them to go from the top of the curtain rod all the way down to the windowsill. But my valance is my second piece, and that's what I'm going to show you today. What my valance needs to be is 12 inch of viewing. All right, so that means at least 12 inches of fabric I will need so that I can create my valance. But when you come to making all of these curtains, you need to be able to add length for your hems as well as your casings. And if you want a ruffle on the top, a little bit more. My valances are going to be 12 inches, as I said, for viewing. So that means I have to add more fabric for my hem and my top. Typically, I add 6 inches for my hem. I do that to give it a little bit of weight, but you can make it as small as 2 inches. It's your choice. The next thing I have to do is add 3 inches for my top or my casing, which will include a small ruffle. After I do that, I have to measure the width, and my windows are pretty wide, so I will use a full width of fabric to create my valance. Some people use 2 of them, 2 widths. So in other words, they sew it together, and then the ruffle is really nice and full. But that's a choice for you, you can make. So I have my fabric here, and I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to explain to you what I've cut. One of my little tricks that I like to do is when I'm making my curtains of any kind, I layer my fabric. So in other words, I put fabric on top of fabric to cut it. Then I know that those pieces are exactly the same length. All right, so what I've got here is my initial 12 inches of my valance, and I want to be able to see. I've added 3 inches for the top, and I've added another 6 inches for the bottom, which comes out to about a 21-inch valance in all. After you sew it though, it's only going to be that 12 inches. The next thing I did is made sure that it was by width of fabric, and it's nice and long. It's 44 inches wide. To get started, there's a couple of things that you need to do that's going to help you out. First, we need to put some measurements on the fabric for both the top and the bottom, so the casing and the hem. And you also need to put some on for the side because you want to seal those or put little hems on them so that you don't see the rough edges. So I hem mine, or sorry about that, I mark mine for hemming on the right side of the fabric. I do that with my my hefty ruler here, but you can use just a regular yardstick if you want to, and I also use just a standard pencil. Now, you're not going to see the pencil line. When you go to press these and then hem them, those are hidden. So go ahead and make them dark if that's what you need. Mine is a busy fabric, so mine's going to have to be dark. First thing, press your fabric so it's nice and flat. Decide which one you want to be the top and which one you want to be the bottom. Once you have those ready to go, you can start your marking. I'm going to start on the side, and I'm going to make it 1 inch on the side. I do that so that I can fold it over. So I put my first marking and I make it 1 inch. Now once I have it marked 1 inch all the way down, I'm going to put a second mark of a 1/2 inch. That tells me where my initial fold is going to be when I go to press. All right, I will do the same thing on the other side so that both sides have 1 inch with a fold over of a 1/2 inch. Now I'm going to measure the top. And the top, remember we said, was 3 inches. So I'm going to measure down 3 inches, and I'm going to draw my line. And as I said, this is busy fabric, so I'm drawing my line. And yes, you're going to go right over your other pencil marks. From there, I would pull that all the way across, and I would mark it all the way across. But before I move my fabric, I'm going to come here a 1/2 inch, and I'm putting a second line. And the reason I'm putting a second line is so that I can fold it over once and then fold it over again to put the casing on. So now I mark my second line. Once I've done that for both sides of the length of the fabric, I turn it around. Okay? And this time I'm going to make it 6 inches, because remember, I wanted it at 6 inches for my hem. So I'm going to do the very same thing. I would mark 1 inch on this side, draw it, 1/2 inch on this side, draw it. Then I would come to the bottom where my hem is going to be, line it up with 6 inches, and the really nice thing is this is a 6-inch ruler. And so I just draw my line, pull it all the way across, and finish that out, and my markings are just about done. Because what I have to do is once I finish my 6-inch mark, all right, I then come up here and I put in my 1/2 inch for my fold over. And like I said, I do this so that all raw edges are hidden. You don't want to, when you wash your curtains, have the raw edges fray, and then the seams all pull apart. Now I'm going to take a moment, I'm going to take my fabric over to my ironing board, and I'm going to press it so that you can see what it looks like before I sew. So give me a moment. All right, I went ahead and I have pressed my valance, and I'm showing you the back of it. You're going to see that I have my edges completely turned under so that they can be pressed and they will seal properly. The next part is that I have placed a crease on both the lines that I had drawn. So in other words, you have one here on the fold over, and then you have one to create your casing. And I did the very same thing here with my hem, so that when this just relaxes down, you're going to see the back of my valance has everything ready to sew. I will make one recommendation if you've never made a valance or a panel curtain before. I would mark one additional line. I'm looking for my tool here. And what it is you want to make sure your casing, so in other words, that piece that holds the curtain rod is exactly the same width all the way across your curtain. So give your curtain rod a little bit of a measure to see how wide it is, and you want to make sure that you give it enough space in there. I make mine approximately 1.25 inches. Sometimes I'll go as high as 1.5 inches, depending on the actual thickness of my rod. And I draw that last line. Now that's the line that you're going to be sewing on when you go to put in the second seam. Now let me tell you what I mean by the second seam. I'm going to take a second and finish this out. When you are creating your valance and you want to shear it on your curtain rod, you want to put it on there, you have to have a casing. So in other words, a sleeve of fabric that it will run through. So my first hem that I'm going to make is my side. I will open these up and sew the side. Then I will, once I have both sides done, I will lay them back down. I will sew my bottom hem. These are straight lines, 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then when I get that all the way sewn across, I will come and I will do another 1/4 inch hem on where the casing is going to be. From there, I'm going to give it a 3rd hem. It's going to be where the casing will end. Now I'm going to go ahead and do that so I can show it to you and you can see how you can put your casings in. So give me a moment and I'm going to take you over to the machine. All right, I'm back. Let me tell you what I have done. I have put in my first hem along the sides, just like I said, to seal those edges on the side. I've put on my top casing the first hem there, and then I went ahead and I put the hem on the bottom. All right, so it's ready to go. And this is what it looks like right now. But I need one more hem to it, or one more seam. And that's to create that casing. Because if you look, it's too big for the rod right at this moment. Now, like I said earlier, I know mine's about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, so I'm going to go ahead and sew that line I had drawn. Now, if you didn't draw a line, you can eyeball it if you're very good on your machine by placing it underneath of your foot and finding a key point on your actual machine to follow. Now, I'm going to pull mine down here, and I'm going to run my hem right here. It's going to go right in that gutter, and I can follow that straight through with the feel of my hand. If you're not comfortable with doing that, you can use this side, and you can use a point or a key point on this side. I'm going to go ahead and get started and finish up this last hem. I finished all of my hems and my seams that I was going to place inside of the valance, but let's do a recap real quick. I have sewn the side to give it a hem on the side. I have sewn the hem on the very bottom, that's that 6-inch. And then I put my hem in the 3-inch, and then I gave it an extra seam for my curtain rod, so that I have a tiny little ruffle here, a little spot for my curtain rod, and my nice large hem. So let me show you how to shear this on. You can use a standard curtain rod if you wanted to. They fit very well. Just make sure you give it a big enough casing. But this is the kind I like. It has a little hook on each of the side of the window, and I enjoy seeing these when I walk in the room. So I'm going to pull it apart so that I can properly feed it on. Now I'm going to feed it with the larger hole first. And I do that because you want it to glide nice and easily on the smaller of the sides. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find that casing spot, and I'm gently going to push it through. I made mine nice and full, so you can see I'm pulling up my gathers, and there I am at the end. Now I'm going to gently take the second part, and I'm going to feed it through, and there I go. I have my valance all ready to go on my window. Now what I'm going to do this afternoon is I'm going to make my panels. My panels are going to be made the exact same way. But instead of 12 inches of fabric, I'm going to use 63 inches of fabric. I will still use my 3 inches extra on the top and my 6 inches on the bottom. I will still sew the hems on the side, 1 inch allowance, and then go to the hem, and I will do that, and then the top, and put in the casing. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you would like a copy of these instructions, you can email me at trainer@starklibrary.org, and I will indeed mail you a digital copy of how to measure your window, as well as how to transfer those measurements onto your fabric. You have a great day, and I hope to see you again.